Well, hey everybody, it's the 7th day of April, Monday, 2025. I'm Jan Erickson and this is As Above, So Below. Well, I started this and then I took a drink of tea and it was too hot and I started coughing, so there we go. So anyway, I've got everything out here already and I'm just going to leave it as it is and talk about it. One thing I wanted to tell you though, we had a young eagle, a bald eagle, in the tree above the pond, and you've got the big pond and the cottonwood trees and some other trees, and then you've got the chicken coop and it's in the run, and then on the dock though, the Canadian goose pair, the geese pair from they've been coming here, maybe this is the 15th year, and she makes her nest on the dock and we just leave it there, and my husband will take more hay out to it before we when we see them flying around, they're going to come in, and she's setting right now and they haven't hatched yet, but that eagle was up there and I know it was a bald eagle because you could see the stripes, his head starting to turn white here. So he was probably, or it was probably a couple years old. We saw a fully bald eagle with the head and the tail on Saturday when we're out working, getting the garden all cleaned up and getting ready, and we were out there and we heard them up in the sky. There was a bald eagle and then two following it. And so this could have been one of those two, but it takes about 5 years maybe from what we did. My son did some research and it takes about that long maybe for the head to go fully white. So, I got pictures. I'm going to put one of them up on the blog over at Stepping Aside, and the web address there is imsteppingaside.com. I took a video, but just as I did, it turned, and then it wasn't long before it flew off over the pond, and I don't know where it went. I couldn't tell. There's too many trees in the way, and so I couldn't figure out where it went, but my husband saw it fly off too. Because we were taking pictures. He was over on one side of the pond. I'm over by the chicken coop, and then just as that happened, a blue heron flew over. I got video of that and a couple of videos of it. We have blue herons here all the time because we've got a couple big ponds and fish in them and stuff, and bullfrogs, and so they're always here. So they sit in the trees, or they'll stand in the pond and walk around, or they'll be on the bank or whatever. Sometimes I saw one out in the pasture one day. I'm like, what the heck is that? Because the thing was huge, I'd never seen one sit like that, because you don't see their feet. They're just kind of hunched down, and probably looking for mice or something. But that was the most amazing thing. I've never seen a bald eagle up close like that, especially a young one. I've never seen a young one ever that I know of. Maybe I have. I'm sure they're all over the place up here, but I just don't ever. We've been here since 81, and so, I don't think I've ever seen one land that I know of, so it was so very cool. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started on the reading. I drew Gebo. Gebo is the 7th rune of the Elder Futhark. It means the gift. It also means reciprocity, marriage, link, partnership. It's Isa crossed, and it's also expressing Kenaz in all directions. And so when you're looking at it, I think of it in terms of the gift of reciprocity. But it's on the soul level, basically. I mean, it can also be obviously in our personal lives, but if you think about Kenaz in all directions, and Kenaz is the light of spirit or the torch, you're expressing that energy outward. And so if you're fully aware that that's what you are as a soul, then you can do that with that intention, right? To express the light of spirit outward in all the relationships you have, all the interactions that you have. And then with the Geomancy rune, I drew Albus. Now, we had Albus on Thursday of last week. Again, this is the sage. This is higher wisdom. It's higher clarity. It can mean communication. When it's ill-dignified, it can mean a little bit superficial. But if not, and paired with Gebo, again, expressing yourself in higher clarity and higher wisdom today with others will be important here. And then I drew 3 cards. I drew the Moon, the King of Wands, and the Lovers reversed. And normally I don't do reversals here, but I'm going to go and do one today. And because I tend to look at the cards including both ends of the spectrum, basically. So, so I don't really feel the need for reversals, but it just happens. So I'm like, okay. And we had a 31 for the numerology, which reduces to 4. So 4 is about structure and foundation and grounding. It could also be about organization and practicality and pragmatism. So there could be something today that where you need to look at it, you know, even in a more realistic fashion, really, and to not be too reactive, to ground yourself in spirit, since we have both Gebo and Albus, and 2 cards from the major arcana, which are soul archetype cards. And so, again, there's just a strong spiritual type of an energy here today for the reading, just like there was on Thursday. We had the Emperor and Judgment. So there was very strong soul component there as well. So let's go ahead. I wonder if I should do the King of Wands first, maybe. I think I will. I'm going to do the center card, King of Wands, first. Again, here we have a king who's sitting on his throne. He's looking toward the past. He's holding his staff, which you see still is still full of life. It represents wands and the fire element. There's the little elemental there for the fire element, the salamander. You see salamanders up here in Ouroboros fashion, gripping their tails. You see the lion here and here for strength and the warrior spirit. But there's still life here growing on his staff. He doesn't hold a scepter. He doesn't hold a globe in his hand. The Ouroboros is all over the back side of his cape. You can see that there. And I can't tell if these are supposed to be depicting lions' heads. They may, sort of, with the mane flowing in the background, toward the back. I think it might be. That's what that is. I've never really been entirely sure, but I think it could be. But with the king, you're talking about somebody who is obviously an older man in authority, like all kings. He's a wise counselor. He's a warrior. He can be cruel and bigoted if he's ill-dignified. And again, I did Thursday's reading from 2 perspectives. I did it from the personal perspective and from the societal one. So again, with the Emperor here, we'll liken the King of Wands to the Emperor. If you're talking about the situation in our country, and then of course the impact it has on the world, we have the Mad King, right? The Mad Emperor, the Mad King of Wands, basically, that is doing things that makes zero sense whatsoever and is harming everyone. But of course, he's, bound and determined to do that. And you can argue, well, maybe that's his point. Maybe that's what he wants to do. So the Mad King would be in terms of psychopathic, if that's the case. Otherwise, if someone is just mad, then it means they're literally out of their mind and they don't know any longer what they're doing. So you either have someone who does know what he's doing or someone who doesn't know what he's doing, but is causing a ruckus in the world, right? And with everyone here. So you can look at it that way. You could look at it as your own expression of the authority within, that dynamic energy within, that's a warrior and a warrior for truth. We had lots of people out and about on the 5th, in all the rallies, all the marches. One possible number was 5 million people. I don't know how, and that was just here in this country. There were protests all over the world on Saturday. And so it's kind of interesting, that we're seeing the bald eagle in the sky, and then yesterday we see the young bald eagle, the symbol of our country. And now we have this. Now we have Gebo, and we have Albus for the runes to start us out. To express ourselves outward in wisdom, higher wisdom to one another, that integration with other people, being on the same page and standing up for what's right. The King of Wands in that regard could indicate somebody that is standing up for truth, standing up for what's right, standing up for basically being the spiritual warrior within. It would have been interesting if we had Tiwaz, because that's the spiritual warrior within from the Elder Futhark, but he's very knowledgeable. And so again, that would align very well with Albus and expressing your knowledge outward from a higher place, from higher wisdom. Um, and so let's talk about it from that standpoint. And then we bring in the moon. Now, the moon is about our dreams. It's also about balance. You see the shadow side of self with the dog and spirit with the wolf. You see the crayfish coming out of the water. It represents renewal. Right now, the moon is none too happy that the canines are barking at it. But you see the two towers on either side there. There's just a tremendous amount of balance and rebirth in this card. It's also about cycles and emotions and transformation and awakening, and intuition. But it's also about the moon veils. Okay, the moon, especially in esoteric astrology, the moon is veiling something else. Like, it can veil Uranus or something. But it's basically the illusory type of expression. Okay. And so the King of Wands may be talking about today bringing out the truth of things and to unveil the illusion that's being offered to all of us, that this is the answer. This is what is the thing to do. It can also mean change and deception. The moon can. The 18th card from the major arcana, you've got 9 as the ultimate numerology for it. And you're looking there at endings and completion. The fact that the king is looking toward the moon card, you see, looking in the direction of the moon card. He's wanting to essentially bring light or bring higher wisdom or higher clarity to the stuff that's going on around us. And so that could be something then, if it's on a personal level, there could be some deception. There could be a lack of balance that Gebo is saying, you know what, you need to get back in balance here. You need to see things as they truly are. And the king, if you're the king, then you're the authority, your own authority in your life, then you're the one that's going to bring truth to power. You're going to bring truth to light, right? And then followed by the Lover's card. Now, normally the Lover's card, when it's upright, you're talking about about the strength of the divine feminine within, trying to deal with something that is not particularly balanced. The masculine sense of self is too strong, and it's not in balance with the feminine side. You could look at it that way. You see the depictions of Adam and Eve. You see, well, if I wouldn't throw the card, you see the tree of life behind and the serpent behind Eve. You see Adam with a spindly oak behind him, just starting to grow. He's not as strong as he believes that he is. You can get out ahead of your skis, essentially, when you have too much masculine energy. But you see the angel above on the cloud. You see the sun shining down on which it would mean the soul, shining down onto the angel, or the creator shining down onto the angel, and infusing all of creation with that higher knowledge and wisdom. But the Lovers, basically, it's about balance and discrimination, in the same way that Gebo is, really. And it's about choice. It's about integration. It's about unification. It's about self and others. But you see that the mountain bends toward Eve, right, toward the woman. And the idea of the tree of knowledge coming from the creator. I know there will be those who say, no, that's not what that is. Well, in my opinion, it is. That the serpent is the serpent of knowledge. And the knowledge comes from the creator. It's not about, listen only to whatever God you had at that time. Which I don't believe was a god. I believe it was just somebody extraterrestrial, or a group that were imbuing creation with and having it become humanity, basically. with whatever they did, right? You could even look at, it almost looks like, the tree almost looks like a DNA strand, doesn't it? And so, you're looking in a way at the tree of life there with the oak tree, even though, you're looking at the tree with the apples on it in the same way, the tree of knowledge. 6 is about a shared path. It's about empathy and compassion. But you can see that the strength from the woman comes from putting her focus on the angel above and on heaven, versus the man looking at her. He's focused on her. He doesn't care about the angel. He doesn't care about creation. He cares about having power. And so you could look at, with it being upside down, you could look at a lack of all of that. You could look at a misuse of power, if you will, by the masculine side of self, a refusal to look at the creator as being all knowledge and all that is, a and with the angel as its representation, essentially. You could look at the lack of balance here. You could look at and see this as a lack of discrimination. And if you think about it, again, what's happening right now in terms of this patriarchal authoritarian type of experience that we're now involved in, this dictator nonsense that we're all involved in and being harmed by, then you're looking at essentially a lack of balance within that individual and those around him, and a lack of discrimination, not understanding the idea that you have the self and the self in others, or the other side of self, which is just, we're one in that creative energy, right? Well, you have people now that are denying that, essentially denying that fundamental soul truth that we all exist in, whether we know it or we don't, whether we acknowledge it or we don't, right? And so as the king, if you're the king today, if that's who the king applies to, then you're having to go back and try to understand what's going on from a higher perspective. You're trying to figure out a way around all of it. If there's something else going on in your life, within your family or between you and friends or at work where things are not balanced, that there's maybe an assertion of power that is ill-dignified, that is wrong, that's going to be harmful, that's literally a misuse of force. So in a sense, the Lover's card can be the outlier, but it can also be the explainer of what's really happening here. The duality and the balance that you should be able to count on, the reciprocity with Gebo and the balance with Gebo that you should be able to count on, the higher wisdom in play that we should be able to count on. We can't. So in a sense, this is the card that catalyzes, that is the outlier, that is maybe part of the deception here with the moon, if we want to look at it that way, trying to see the real truth that the moon wants to veil. And the lack of balance, it tells us here, this is a card of balance. You could look at this as the feminine side and the masculine side, or spirit and the shadow side of self. You could look at it that way. The rebirth that needs to happen, and the fact that the crayfish is coming up right at the beginning of the trail that goes up into the mountains there. And it sort of winds up, you can't see it very well, but it kind of winds up between a larger peak and a smaller peak right there where it ends up at the mountains. So there's a sense of balance there as well on the path, and transformation out of the illusion of the moon or the deception of the moon into the actual light, and to stay balanced and to keep everything in balance. The masculine and feminine within. So in a sense, the Lover's card and the moon card tends to align extremely well, because if you're looking at the Lover's card as maybe a relationship card as well, then you're looking at some deception with respect to the relationship. And obviously with Gebo here, you're looking at balanced relationships that we need to have. When we have them, then we can see where maybe something we want to do is going to harm these other people. It's like, well, then we don't want to do that. We want to find another way. But this guy, if he's the guy in charge right now in our country, he doesn't care about that. Doesn't care about anybody. He cares about what he can do and the power he can wield and the money that he can put in his own pocket, right? And so, and also the billionaire class that he's hired to surround him as part of his cabinet. You know, it's like you talk about draining the swamp, all they did was solidify it and put up guardrails around it. And, you know, I have 8-foot game fence around my property, basically. I'm in some areas, and then the equivalent of that in the rest of it, to keep the deer out. And otherwise they decimate my garden. And so have they done that? Have they done this in a way that protects them from everybody else? The problem is everybody else is standing there going, well, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my house payment? How will I make my car payment? How will I buy food? You know, what I have no money now, right? Because the stock market is crashing. Well, and it is all over the world. And somehow or another, in his delusion, the Mad King believes everyone's going to bend the knee. No, they won't. They'll just form their own alliances and be done with us. And that will be awful. It will just be awful, right? And so you as the king, if this is you in a situation, you may be dealing with something today where there's some deception going on, and you're having to figure it out and stand up for yourself and for others as well. And be the warrior, be the spiritual warrior within, be the Tiwas within, and deal with this lack of discernment that realistically is part of the deception here. You know, you've got a lack of discernment here, and the resulting maybe deception here. I think they do go hand in hand. If it were not reversed, then I might be saying, well, you know, there's something, you're either deluding yourself about something, or there's something in a relationship you're in that is, you know, the other person's trying to delude you, or you're trying to do that to them. But here, it's just the way that it is. It's a completion really of the two cards together, and describing a situation where the reciprocity, the self and others, the integration, the unification of polarity within and without, between you and other people, the Gebo of it all is just simply not there. And it's part of the delusion that the king, you, will have to try to figure out and understand. So and use that higher wisdom today from both Gebo and particularly Albus, to be able to discern what's really happening so you can make some decisions about it. Again, you know, we have a 4 numerology for the entire reading, and I forgot to put that down here. Let me just put that down so I don't forget. We have a 4 numerology, and again, that's affecting our structure and our foundation. It's dealing with things that instead of being practical and pragmatic, they're not. And they're going to impact everything that you know and you have. And so you're going to have to deal with it. So whether there's something really personal going on that's causing this today for you, or it's something societal that's going on that's causing this for you, you're going to have to deal with things from a higher perspective and not get bogged down into the fear of it all. Even though that's going to be how you feel, you're going to have to take a deep breath and just say, okay, we got to get to work now. We got to figure this out and figure out how we're going to survive all of this. You know, people's 401ks are being decimated. All of these things. Now, maybe you were able to take some precautions before today to try to you know, sort of temper some of that, you know, devastation. But if you haven't been able to do that, and you don't even have a 401k, because a lot of people don't have anything. They don't have a retirement account. All they have is what's coming with Social Security when they get that. And we know what's going on there. So it just seems like all of the guardrails, all the foundation, all the structure is being moved. The ground is moving under our feet right now. And there's nothing we can really do to stop those forces from doing what they're doing. We just have to find a way to protect ourselves. Some people have gone out and they've created a storage of food and supplies that they might be able to need, but that they will need before the prices go up and skyrocket, so we don't know what that's going to look like. And so if they don't stop this, because he has a tendency the person in charge has a tendency to do one thing and get things going and then suddenly stop it and do something else. So there's no intelligence there. There's no intelligent choice there. There's no albus in action there, where higher wisdom and what's best for all is really motivating him to do what he does. It's just all what he wants to do and how powerful he wants to feel and how he defines that for himself. And again, there could be that just simply happening in your personal life, and in that respect, the King of Wands would represent whoever's doing that. But if it doesn't, if it does represent you, and you're trying to deal with what's being thrown at you, and the deception and the lack of discernment and the lack of care over being united and not caring what the impact is, then you have your hands full today. But just understand, the best place to start is going into meditation and accessing the soul within, the higher wisdom within, the higher self within, and hearing whatever messages are coming through, and keeping your wits about you when you are dealing with things, trying to deal with things, get the best advice you can, and trying to make some kind of decisions about your future that are with clarity, with clear sight, instead of with the deception the moon is suggesting, and the nonsense here with the Lovers reversed. You can't trust the situation with the Lovers at this point. Higher awareness may not be anywhere left in this card. Essentially, it's the angels standing on its head, and what could be coming from without is really just being suppressed in a way. You could look at it that way. With the mountain that's not, in its upright position, there's the strength is coming from something else. Look at it as a demonic force, if you will. It could say that. And that's what you're having to contend with. And so if you come from that standpoint and you understand that there's a lot of garbage going on and people are not doing anything that's in your best interest, then at least you know where you stand, right? And you know where, and maybe from there you can figure out where to go from there. Instead of, struggling and trying and asking, oh my God, why is this happening? Well, it's happening because they want it to. It's just that simple. And so you have to realize that the enemy is not only at the gate, it's inside with you now, and creating a drama that you don't need, essentially, that none of us needs. So again, I'm going to try to do these readings from a personal standpoint. This could be literally something just in your personal life, having nothing to do with what else is happening. But it's just that what else is happening is impacting our personal lives. So it's very difficult not to read it that way. So we'll do it, but we'll try to do it both ways for each reading for a while and see how that goes. So anyhow, I'll write this up over on the blog. I'll do some reading notes on it, and a link back to this, and all of that will be there. Plus, I always put the current reading on the side panel over there at the blog as well. So if you need to get back to it quickly and you don't want to look around on YouTube for it, if you haven't yet subscribed, which I hope you will, then at least it'll be there. And the web address at Stepping Aside is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, click on more below the video. It'll be right there. The link to the blog will be. And I guess that's it. Thanks for coming by, and hang in there. And I'm really into symbolism. So the eagle, the bald eagle on Saturday in the sky, and the young bald eagle in my tree above my chicken coop, that means something to me. So maybe we're going to be able to figure this out and stop all the damage that's being done. So that's our focus here today, and at least, and for the foreseeable future, and hopefully it won't be too long. So anyhow, thanks again for watching, and come back on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. And maybe I'll have more eagle stories for you. I just hope they don't take one of my chickens, but if they do, then okay, it'll be all right. They needed it, right? Anyway, be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.